you want to start?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be here with you all. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You will hear the sounds in the background of the tuning up because we have worked out a special way today to be able to get the sound that you would hear if you were sitting in the Kaler's living room. Unfortunately, that does not allow the Kalers to mute their sound, and so but this is kind of the joy. This is like being in the concert hall in a way, hearing the Chicago Symphony tune up and get ready to play. So I couldn't be more delighted than I am today to be able to welcome you to this concert of One Tree, Many Branches, and to be able to introduce this astounding family of musicians. Ilya Kaler, uh, as well as Olga Kaler, were both trained at the Moscow Conservatory. And Ilya was a gold medalist, the only one who was a gold medalist in all three of the major international competitions, the Tchaikovsky, the Sibelius, and the Paganini. In the earlier part of his career, he was the concertmaster with the Rochester Philharmonic, where the Eastman School of Music resides. He's been a soloist with such acclaimed orchestras as the Berlin Radio Orchestra, the Boston and Seattle Symphonies, as well as the Baltimore Symphony. He's a member of the Tempest Trio with Ahmet Palid and Alon Goldstein. He's held teaching posts at the Eastman School of Music, Indiana University, DePaul, and is now a professor at the Cleveland Institute of Music and tours worldwide extensively and is a Naxos recording artist. Olga, his wife, was, as I mentioned, also trained in Moscow, but also at the New England Conservatory in Northwestern. She's a special prize winner of the Rodolfo Lepizzer International Competition and first prizes at the Northwestern and Tavu Isaac competitions. Her orchestral engagements include Chicago Symphony, the World Orchestra for Peace, Boston Symphony, and has held leadership positions in Rochester, Lake Forest, and Ars Viva. She's a member of the Chicago Ensemble and tours extensively. In addition to being an extremely wonderful violinist, she's also a composer like her father and has, done many arrangements, cadenzas, and original compositions for the violin, which she does tour with occasionally. Her teaching posts have included DePaul, and she is now teaching with Ilya at the Cleveland Institute of Music. And then there is Daniel. And Daniel literally grew up here in Chicago at the Music Institute of Chicago, where he studied with Gilda Barston, Hans Jensen, and then eventually went on to study with Stephen Balderstein at the was one of the cellists with the Chicago Symphony. He did his bachelor's at the Cleveland Institute and is now doing his master's at Rice University. He's a Sigma Alpha Iota Concerto Competition winner at the Chautauqua Festival, the Cleveland Institute of Music Concerto Competition, where he was awarded the 2018 Payne Fund Prize, and the North International Music Competition in London. He's soloed with Ars Viva, the Bogota Philharmonic Orchestra, Chautauqua Music School Festival Orchestra, Cleveland Institute of Music Orchestra, and he's been featured on the North Shore Chamber Music Festival, which I'm sure many of you know, that series run by Vadim, and also the Young Steinway Concert Artist Series. He's as well had radio appearances on WFMT's Introductions, WCLV, and WCPN's Applause performances. So, as you can see, this is a very accomplished family, and in beautiful musicians. They're some of the closest to my heart. So I'm very, very proud to be able to welcome them to our series. And without any further ado, Ilya. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
Yeah, before we introduce them and let them on the stage, a couple quick announcements. We will be recording this broadcast, so if for some reason you don't want your face seen by the world, please turn off your video. Most of the broadcast should show them, so you shouldn't be seen, but just want to give you that heads up. Secondly, you probably all know this, but this will be best watched in speaker view. So in the top right corner of your Zoom screen, you can choose between gallery view and speaker view. So speaker view is better. Um, Also want to thank, of course, Misha, artistic director of this great series, as well as all the people of Ascension Lutheran Church and all the donors who make this series possible with their generosity. So that's just my spiel. Go back to you, Misha.
So without any further ado, I introduce you to Daniel and Ilya Kaler, father and son, playing the Handel Halverson's Passacaglia.
Good evening, dear friends. We're happy to play this program for you tonight. The first piece on our program would be Handel Halverson, Passacaglia, for violin and cello. Hope you enjoy.
evening, everyone. I will now be playing Roja's Toccata Capricciosa.
I don't know if, can you all hear me? Okay. So what a treat that was. I put in the chat a little bit about that last piece. So if you wanted to, see a little bit about the composer, Miklos Rocha. He's a Hungarian-born composer who did move to the United States. Was known primarily for his film music, although he did write string concertos and all sorts of other things. But he is incidentally the composer of the film score for Ben-Hur, which I thought you might find interesting. And I'm sure Daniel will have more to say about that when we have a chance to chat with the Kalers after the performance. So I'm going to turn my mic off here because it looks like they're ready.
We're going to perform for you now a sonata for two violins by Eugène Isaïe, the first movement of it.
Okay, Danny, can you hear me? Okay, folks, just give us a second. We're going to switch over to conversation mode in a minute. Danny, are you there? Just give us one second to get the Kalers back in the room. There we go. Danny, can you hear us? Oh, I can't hear anything now. Okay. So can you, oh, I think I can hear something now.
Okay.
There we go. Did you quit QuickTime, Danny?
Now I have.
Okay. Wonderful. We're here. Yay. Sorry. Well, that's one of the drawbacks of pandemic time. You know, all of us artist types who only know intimately, you know, the fingerboards of our instruments have to somehow figure out how to navigate this strange new world of virtual. But I have to say we've done a marvelous job of it here today. Thank you so much for entertaining us with that, you know, this whole process of going virtual. And just what an astounding concert. I was watching the comments, you know, pop up and, you know, seeing people's reactions, and we're just, you know, so incredibly moved, even through the screen, you know, which seems to be such a challenge, you know, during these pandemic times. We can't be live, and though, you know, there are those great drawbacks. One of the wonderful opportunities we have is to be able to welcome these artists who are right now in Cleveland, broadcasting directly from their living room. And it reminds me almost of what concerts used to be. You know, the Schubertiades, you know, this was an intimate form of music making. Everybody had a front row seat. You could hear the musicians breathe as well as play. And that was something that, you know, I was particularly, you know, moved and struck by today, was just the proximity and to feel the music coming from all of you today. So thank you for that. So, is there anything that you wanted to say about the works that you play today? I put a couple of things in the chat, what little I know, but is there anything, like, for instance, Olga, you told me that this was the first time that you and Ilya actually had the time to work together on the essay.
So this side of the pandemic for us, we got to learn this beautiful piece. We've been dreaming of doing it for years, but it's so incredibly difficult and it's very, very time consuming, and it takes a long time to get it into your head and into your ear, and you have to kind of study it exclusively. So we're thrilled to have finally found time to do it. You know, unfortunately, that process was interrupted for a little bit, like 6 weeks, when I broke my hand, but then healed, we kept going, and we're thrilled. Today is actually our premiere performance of this work. We've never done it before. So,
And this is only the first movement, mind you.
right.
Right.
Yeah, this is a free movement, very big piece. Yeah.
Hopefully,
Right.
if we do this live, we would love to do the whole thing because it's just such an incredible piece. You know, Isai wrote this for Queen Elizabeth, and you know she tried to learn it, and it proved to be too difficult. So he made another version of this piece for two violins and viola, where he took the second violin part, which was supposed to be played by Queen Elizabeth, but so she couldn't do it. So he split the part between violin and viola, and so hence the two violin and viola version of this piece, which would be interesting to do someday.
Yeah.
And this piece was really kind of an intimate work, very personal. So it was discovered really after his death, only in the archive. So it was not published or performed during his life.
Interesting.
Yes. So and it's an opus posthumous, and but I think the popularity of this piece among violinists, I think, it really grows. Right.
Well, it's a truly remarkable work. I mean, for those of you, I don't know how many violin duos you've heard, but certainly if you weren't privy to being able to see the Kalers playing it, you might have thought we were hearing a string quartet rather than a string duo. And it's, it is truly unique in that regard, because I don't know too many duos that are so full-bodied. And it sustains that through the second and third movements as well. The movements that
wait until you hear the finale.
Oh, I have.
Full body. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
Tristan on Isolde, written for two violins.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for sure. Daniel, did you want to say anything about the Roja?
Well, Roja, I think he had two categories of music. Like one category was like for all the film music, and another was I forget exactly the name, but it was there's a name in the academia somewhere. I studied some of the films for which he wrote music. Double Indemnity, for instance, an amazing film, and the score is also equally amazing.
Mm-hmm.
This piece that I learned, the Toccata Capricciosa, my teacher Brenton Smith, who's in Houston, he recorded it, and it's just such an incredible piece, and I'm really happy to to play it. And it has all those film elements. It's dramatic and all the different scenes.
Did it conjure any particular images for you?
I mean, just abstract. It's like I'm running away from something, and then it gets to this seemingly serene place. It's kind of an abstract, serene place. You don't know what it is, but it's
right. Maybe you're running away from all the practicing it's going to take.
Those of our audience who are film lovers, they of course must remember El Cid, among just bunches of great movies from Hollywood golden era that he wrote. And he was also a great conductor and of course arranger. And he wrote also a few concertos for cello. He wrote concerto for Pятигорский, for violin concerto, which I was lucky to learn and perform actually in Chicago, was written for Mr. Heifetz. And he has also piano concerto and other serious works. I mean, he was a major composer, but he happened to be in Hollywood, and so he worked for Hollywood as well.
And apparently he was a mentor to Jerry Goldsmith.
That's
as
correct.
Well. So another very famous film composer. The days of the film composers crossing over and doing work for the concert hall, it's not as common as it used to be, but back then it was certainly much more of a common occurrence. So is there, I'd love to, open up the floor to, if anybody has any questions for the Kalers, you're certainly, welcome to unmute if you have a question. You're certainly willing to put something in the chat while we wait for such a thing. While either if something's coming to mind or you're not quite ready yet, I just have one last thing that I would like to ask you about the musical family element. Those of us who are serious musicians, oftentimes we do, share that within the family, and others do not. But can you talk a bit about the joys and the travails of all doing the same thing in the same space?
That's a tough question. It's, when Danny was younger, it was definitely, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because any parent who has a child who is trying to become a professional musician would tell you the same thing. It's just a lot of grueling hard work every
Hmm.
day. Danny and I used to get up sometimes at 4 or 5 in the morning, practice before school, and for many years until his great teacher Emilio del Rosario died. He actually played piano equally seriously. So we would practice piano
Oh,
before school and cello after school for a total of 4 or 5 hours.
uh,
And then, the repertoire was getting bigger and bigger, and his repertoire was so ahead of his age. He was too young to practice such difficult pieces, but he could do them, with some help, of course. And so I practiced with him for, I would say, anywhere 2 to 4 hours every day until he turned 18. And even after he went to college, we would do those FaceTime sessions, and it was thrilling, really, to be able to, when he was really young, I would compose a piece with cello part at his level, violin part at mine. And so we kind of grew up together like this. As he got better, his part got more and more complex. And it was just such a joy. I was always ready to cry just at the thought that I can actually make music with my son.
is and there's the payoff.
Yeah, yeah. So that is a true privilege, and of course, when Danny became more and more advanced, we were able to bring Ilya into the mix. And, I remember listening to the two of them playing Brahms double and thinking this was really worth it. It was
Oh yeah.
for it, their debut performance together of Brahms double was in Bogota, Colombia, and I went with them. I had to be there for it, and I
Mhm.
was thinking it's just such a blessing. All this work, every minute of it, all the sleepless nights, it was all worth it. So, yeah, it's hard, but we're so proud of it.
Well, we certainly know where you come from, being a musical family ourselves, and having a very talented young violinist in our family, and we know the pain, and we know the joys. I do have the pleasure of being able to play with my son as well, and there is no greater joy when you know, at least after the practicing is done. How about you, Daniel? How is it for you? Because I'm sure, I know what my answer would be to that question, but I have a feeling my son's would be a very different answer, and I have a feeling yours might be too.
I mean, I guess like every little kid, I really hated practicing for a very long time. But I think when I got a lot older and I just started thinking and just developing my own ideas about how to solve problems in my playing, I I really came to love it because it was like solving a puzzle. And
Hmm.
I'm the type that's really analytical, and I really like to solve things that don't work. So
Yeah. And how do you feel being, a musical great surrounded by musical greats?
really, really, really blessed.
That's great. I hope my son feels that way one day too.
The appreciation that doesn't come immediately, of course.
So I've been told.
Exactly.
I'm just teasing. He's in the room. He's probably ready to kill me right now. So I have a question here from one of our audience members. Can you tell us a little bit about each of your instruments?
Type of chat and say, can we say hi? Okay.
Should I just talk about it, or should I bring it over? I don't
Um, Either way.
know.
How?
Yeah. Actually, it's relatively new. I got it last summer.
Hmm.
It's a brand new instrument, although funny enough, I think it was made all the way back in 2010, and it was just sitting in the shop. It was the people whose shop it was, they didn't do anything with it. And so when I flew down to Texas to try it out, they said, you know, it's one of our workbench models, and it's a really terrific instrument, really soft. I think it projects really great. Yeah, maybe this is a really rainy room, but I think it really resonates and it's really easy to play, and I really love playing.
It's a beautiful sound.
When we play, I play, and Olga as well. We play on the violins that we really love, made by one of the greatest modern contemporary violin makers, Joseph Curtin. Remember his name, Curtin. He lives in Ann Arbor. He's Canadian by birth and grew up in England, and he lives in the United States, of course. And I worked with Joe since 1996. So this is my sixth instrument, if I'm not mistaken, which I play now. This is my primary concert instrument, with which I've been happy for many years. And I made some recordings on it. And Olga as well, she can tell you herself. This is your fourth, right?
Yes.
Probably. Fourth also by Joe. I mean, he knows our playing individually, and this is extraordinary because you can really discuss the finest details of not design, but the sound character and the type of response that we expect from the instrument. Because Joe knows our playing very well, and we're good friends, and so if there's any problem with instrument or it needs some special adjustment, creator of those violins is alive and around, and so we can always come back.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But we've been happy to have this wonderful collaboration.
Yes, I have heard about Joe. I do know of him.
I would like to add that he is the only recipient of the MacArthur Genius Award, the only violin maker to ever be and I know that he deserves it more than anyone because he doesn't just make violins with someone else's ideas and models. He's constantly experimenting and inventing, better ways and some ways to improve sound. For instance, one of the things he invented are those like little tiny patches which go between the bridge and the instrument. And so, for those of you who are more or less familiar with how violin looks, the bridge is something that holds the strings up. And so, very often, there's about 200 pounds of pressure, that is pressing on the top of the instrument. And so, after a while, you get what we call a sound post crack, because sound post is something that connects the bottom and the top plates of the instrument. And so, in order for that not to happen, he glues these tiny little patches under the legs of the bridge. And it spreads the pressure just enough so he said he never had an instrument with sound post crack. So
wow.
That, it's just only one of the things. I'm no expert, but this is one of the things all of us are very grateful for.
Wow.
Sound post crack could really do quite a bit of damage to the violin. So
yeah.
Also, another, I think, great quality of Joe as a maker, like greatest makers of the past, is that he is able to see the piece of wood and already have a very clear idea of how it will sound, which is quite extraordinary.
Interesting. Wow.
For us simple mortals, but he has this kind of a instinctual, feeling of the wood.
Just like a musician needs to have both the mind of an engineer, an intellect, a problem solver, and the spontaneous ability to react to something in a subconscious way, So I have another request here from old friends of yours and your former employer, Don and Chris Casey. They would love to have a word with you. So Don and Chris, why don't you go ahead and unmute?
We have considered the Kalers to be very dear friends for a long, long while, but we haven't seen them for a long time and we've missed them. It is always an enormous pleasure and joy to hear you play. But this time, Daniel, I am blown away
Me
by,
too. Me
Right?
too.
I think the last time I heard you play was at the little house in Chautauqua and you had a mute on your cello so you wouldn't make too much noise. My gosh, have you developed into a wonderful artist yourself.
You all sound wonderful. You look wonderful. It's great to see you again.
Thanks for doing this.
Wonderful to hear you and to hear you talk.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
it's-
being with us today.
You bet. You bet. Thanks.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, going back down memory lane. I remember once I was called into the Music Institute to do something I don't normally do, which is conduct. And I remember 10-year-old little Danny on my right side with this tiny little violoncello. But yes, you've come a long way in an amazingly short, what seems like a very short period of time, but I guess it hasn't been so short. But yes, it was just absolutely lovely. And I'm so glad you included that piece, Daniel, too, because it was, you know, what was so interesting about the program today was all of this stuff that kind of crossed from the 19th century over into the 20th century. And then you really brought us full blown into the 20th century, and that was a nice part of the program to be able to enjoy. So, well, if there are no other questions, I should probably let the Kalers have dinner.
Could I, as a sort of a parting gift to end on a cheerful note,
Please.
I would like to tell everyone a joke.
Okay.
And it's a Hollywood joke about Roja and Korngold. So they meet somewhere in a hall of the Hollywood studios, and Korngold says to Roja, Miklos, how is it possible that your music keeps getting better and better, and mine keeps getting worse and worse? And Roja says, without missing a beat, he says, well, it's very simple, really, because we've been stealing from each other for years.
And that's how the good old composers used to do it. We can't do that anymore, or else we get fined.
As Brahms supposedly once said that the difference between talent and genius is that talent borrows and genius steals.
Well, very good. It has been such a joy to be with you this afternoon, Kalers. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the day when we are past all of this and we can hear the full Yzet Sonata in the comfort of our sanctuary all together. I do hope that we can make that happen at some point in the future.
That will be fantastic. We're looking forward to it. So everybody, please have a great year, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person sooner rather than later.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe and healthy, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.